Joining me now is Republican Governor of North Carolina, Pat McCrory. Governor McCrory, good morning to you, sir.
Chuck, thanks for having me back.
Let me ask you this.
We're looking forward to the president coming.
I was just going to say, what do you think of this initiative? This is one of, are you in favor of it? Are you going to go to the event? Tell me your reaction to this initiative.
I'm in favor of this initiative. We think there's a manufacturing comeback in North Carolina. We're seeing a great deal of interest in manufacturing coming back from China to North Carolina. We think we've got the talent to supply those jobs. And I'm supporting the president in his efforts, and I'm going to greet him at the airport. I'm going to listen to his speech at NC State. I haven't been invited to the tour, but if the White House invites me to tour, I'd be glad to tour that great company that we have in the Durham area.
And it's my understanding the state chipped in money on this as well, right? You had some federal dollars.
Yeah,
and you chipped in some money.
I've committed in my next budget, I believe, $10 million to support this effort. It's a great cooperative between the private sector and especially our great NC State University, a great engineering school that supplies the much-needed labor for manufacturing companies throughout our state.
You think Congress should have passed this legislation? This was obviously something the president asked for in his State of the Union and wanted this to be codified by Congress so that he could do these in more places. They figured out a pilot project, created this in North Carolina. Do you think this is something that it should be wider spread?
I think it's good to try out a pilot program to see what works, and I think North Carolina is a great state to try out the pilot program. And I'm going to be supportive of the pilot program to see and measure its results. So if it works here, maybe the rest of the nation can consider it in the future.
Now let me ask you about what just didn't happen in Congress yesterday. They didn't, at least on the Senate side, didn't come to an agreement on extending unemployment benefits. Do you think that's a good idea? You've been tough. You and the Republican legislature have cut benefits back even more than most states on unemployment benefits. So do you think what the U.S. Senate did yesterday was the right call?
Well, I need to clarify that. We had the approximately the 10th highest benefits in the nation, and what we did was lower it to what our neighbors were paying in Virginia, Tennessee, and South Carolina. And by doing that, feds would not allow us to accept extended federal benefits. I had to make a tough decision, and my decision was to cut up the credit card, and we owed the federal government $2.4 to $2.5 billion. I've lowered that debt to the federal government to about 1.9, and we hope to pay off that debt 3 years earlier than planned. So I've made a decision to get off the credit card, and but I'm willing to work with the president to see what we can do in the future and Congress and have ongoing talks about the flexibility that states have in this issue. And I believe in flexibility because each state has its own unique needs.
Let me ask you about another issue that I know has been some petitioning. Mel Watt, former now Democratic member of Congress, 12th District of North Carolina, has now been confirmed into a new job dealing with the government agencies having to do with housing, the housing securities area. And you have decided not to call for a special election, essentially leaving the 12th District without a congressman for essentially a full calendar year. Why are you doing that?
Well, it was a very complex decision. I had to look at voter rolls. I had to look at the military votes overseas. We had to look at the schedule of the existing elections. And what part of the problem was, of course, the Senate delayed the confirmation of Congressman Watt, and then Congressman Watt delayed his acceptance of the job, which threw our whole schedule in a mess.
But, Governor, it's January.
I made a very tough decision.
Governor, it's January. You have a scheduled state primary, statewide vote for May. And many states, I cover a lot of House special elections, and many governors, to save money, what you're talking about, basically put the special general election on that primary date and then ask the two parties, for instance, to just do this with their central committee, and then suddenly it's not costing taxpayers any money.
My state laws are different than other state laws. Every state has different election laws, as you well know. And my decision was even supported by the very liberal editorial page of the Charlotte Observer, and it was also supported by 3 of the African-American Democratic candidates that are running for Mel Watt's seat. Mel Watt's a good friend of mine. I worked with him when I was mayor of Charlotte for 14 years, and I made a very tough decision, a very difficult calendar, and I think it was the best decision, and 3 of the candidates running running for that seat agreed with my decision, and so does a very liberal editorial page. But there was no easy solution.
Well, I understand that, but it just sort of, I have to say, I'm sort of dumbfounded that, you know, I know people have a low opinion of Congress, but to have basically to disenfranchise nearly 1 million people and not having representation in the U.S. House of Representatives, that is not a healthy thing. For a year,
well, Chuck,
so we're going to be a whole calendar year, Governor.
Chuck, I'm sworn to uphold the constitutional laws of North Carolina, and I can't change those laws between now and that election. And again, I have to uphold the election laws, and I made a good decision. I think the only difference in any other option was about 2 months. And Chuck, you know and I know that not much goes on in Washington between July and the election anyway, which is a sad commentary on Washington politics.
I know. I mean, I guess that's.
And by the way, Congressman Watt's staff will be very active, and still his staff will be working on constituent services on one of the oddest congressional districts in the United States of America that goes from Charlotte all the way through Salisbury, all the way through Greensboro.
Well, hey, you want to talk about redistricting reform? We could go on for another 10 minutes.
This one's one of the wildest ones.
Well, your guys
it is crazy. It's a crazy district.
It is.
What's that?
It is one of those.
That's been around for several decades.
I know. You change 85 and you go into a new district, if I'm not mistaken.
You got it. You got it.
Governor McCrory, thanks for your time this morning.
Have me anytime. Thank you very much.